There was a particular kind of applause that could make a person disappear. I learned that beneath 6 crystal chandeliers, while 200 donors celebrated the restoration I had spent 23 months completing, and Mara accepted every compliment as if her hands had repaired a single torn page. I stood 3 steps behind her, smiling because she had trained me to smile. Then she lifted her glass and called me her assistant. Somewhere across the room, a tall, dark-haired woman stopped applauding. Assistant! The word landed more cleanly than a slap. I had rebuilt warped bindings, lifted mold from paper with trembling precision, catalogued missing volumes, and slept on the workshop floor during the winter pipe disaster. Mara had visited twice a week with coffee and a camera. Yet when the foundation chair praised the project, she smiled and said, "My assistant June was helpful with the smaller details." People laughed warmly. I looked down at my hands and wondered when I had agreed to become small. I should have left immediately. Instead, I looked up and found the stranger watching me. I knew who Arden Shaw was, of course. Everyone did. Last heir to the Shaw estate, chair of the Heritage Foundation, owner of half the buildings currently featured in glossy architectural magazines. She had a reputation for ending meetings with 3 words and careers with 2. Her gray eyes held mine across the ballroom. She did not look sympathetic. Somehow that was worse. She looked furious, and I had no idea why. Mara found me near the side curtains before I found enough courage to run. "Don't make that face," she whispered, still smiling for the room. "This is good for both of us." I stared at the woman I had loved for 4 years. "You said our names would be together." Her smile tightened. "June, sponsors understand a single creative lead. You're brilliant with your hands, but public work isn't your strength." There it was, polished and familiar. The explanation that always ended with me apologizing. I heard myself say, "You submitted my conservation reports under your name." Mara's eyes flashed. "Lower your voice." They were mine. We were a team. She touched my elbow as though calming a difficult child. I flinched. That tiny movement changed something in the room. Arden Shaw began walking toward us. She did not hurry. She simply crossed the polished floor with such certainty that people moved before noticing they had moved. Mara saw her approaching and immediately straightened. I wanted the marble to open beneath me. "Ms. Venn," Arden said. Mara produced her brightest professional smile. "Ms. Shaw, thank you for trusting me with your family's collection." Arden's gaze shifted to me. I didn't. The silence between us seemed to widen. Mara laughed once, uncertain. Arden continued. "I trusted the person whose repair pattern appears on every spine in the West Gallery." Her eyes settled on my fingers. "And unless you have recently developed June Cole's left-handed thread tension, that person was not you." I forgot how to breathe. Nobody had ever identified my work that way. Not by a signature or a photograph, but by tension. By the fractional pull my left hand made when setting linen thread. I looked at Arden as if she had spoken a secret language. Mara recovered first. "June works under my direction." Arden's expression did not change. "Then your direction is remarkably similar to her graduate thesis." Mara went still. My stomach dropped. Arden looked at me again. "Miss Cole, may I borrow you?" She paused. "You may say no." That was the first thing Arden Shaw ever gave me, an exit that did not sound like an order. Her hand remained at her side. She did not rescue me, claim me, or announce that she knew what I needed. She simply waited while the gala breathed around us. Behind me, Mara whispered, June, don't be dramatic. I looked at the woman who had spent years defining my reactions for me. Then I looked at Arden. Yes, I said. My voice shook. You may borrow me. Arden nodded once. Precisely. Arden walked beside me, not ahead. That detail mattered later. At the time, I was mostly aware of the blood roaring in my ears and the guests pretending not to stare. She guided me toward a side corridor without touching me. Once, when a donor stepped into my path, Arden merely looked at him. He moved so quickly, I almost laughed. I didn't, because laughter seemed impossible. My chest had become a locked room. Arden glanced toward me. Can you keep walking? I think so. Thinking is sufficient for now. She brought me into the restored library. My library, though I had never dared call it that. Rain tapped the high windows. Brass lamps warmed the shelves I had repaired until my fingerprints lived invisibly beneath the polish. Arden closed the door and stayed near it. I won't ask whether you're all right, she said. That would be insulting. My laugh came out broken. Something small and hard pressed into my palm. I looked down. It was an old brass key. What is this? I whispered. Arden said, Evidence that you missed a door. I turned the key over. Its bow was shaped like an open eye, worn smooth from decades of use. I inventoried every lock in this building. Almost every lock. Arden folded her hands behind her back. My grandmother sealed the North Archive 31 years ago. The board assumes the room is empty. And you don't? I dislike assumptions. Her mouth shifted, barely. Especially expensive ones. My mind, desperate for anything except Mara, caught on the problem. Why give this to me? Arden answered quietly. Because you notice damage other people decorate over. I stared at her. Arden's reputation had prepared me for sharpness, not accuracy. You knew about Mara? I asked. I suspected. Why didn't you stop her before tonight? A flicker crossed her face. Because suspicion is not proof, and because I have spent my life watching powerful people decide what is best for quieter people without asking them. She looked at the key in my hand. I will not repeat that mistake with you. The room seemed suddenly warmer. Then what are you asking? Open a door, Miss Cole. Arden left me alone after that. She said tea would arrive if I wanted it, and silence would remain if I didn't. I sat in one of the leather chairs until the gala noise became a distant vibration beneath the floor. Mara had stolen my work. The sentence was simple enough, yet my mind kept trying to soften it. Shared, misunderstood, complicated. We had been together. We had planned a life. Surely betrayal required a villain, and Mara still knew how I took my coffee. I hated how badly I wanted excuses. A woman with short curls entered carrying a tea tray. I'm Elise, she said. Arden's chief of staff, emergency translator, and occasional remover of idiots. I blinked. Is that a real job title? It becomes one around fundraising season. She set down the tray. No questions. Arden's orders. She gives a lot of orders. Elise smiled. Yes, but the interesting part is noticing which ones she refuses to give. She glanced at the brass key. Apparently, you're currently one of them. Before I could ask what that meant, she disappeared. The tea was black, strong, with a slice of orange peel. Exactly how I drank it during overnight restoration shifts. I stared into the cup. Maybe Arden had asked someone. Maybe the kitchen remembered. There were ordinary explanations for being noticed. Still, my throat tightened. Mara had spent 4 years telling people I hated tea because she hated the smell. Eventually, I stopped correcting her. Such a stupid thing to cry over. Yet that night, alone beside the rain-dark glass, I cried because someone had brought me the right cup. Mara found me before midnight. Of course she did. She stood inside the library doors with her practiced expression of patient concern. "You've embarrassed me enough," she said. I almost admired the efficiency. "I embarrassed you?" Arden enjoys intimidation. "Don't let her manipulate you." I looked at the key in my palm. "Did you submit my reports under your name?" Mara exhaled. "We discussed branding." "No, you discussed branding. I was repairing flood damage." Her face hardened. "June, everything we built belongs to both of us." My voice surprised me. "Not my hands." Mara reached for my wrist. I stepped back before she touched me. Her eyebrows rose. That tiny reaction told me how rarely I had moved away. "Come home," she said. "We'll talk when you're calm." I heard years inside that sentence. Calm meant agreeable. Talk meant listen until Mara's version became mine. "I don't live with you anymore." The words arrived before I planned them. Her face emptied. Mine probably did, too. "June, you heard me." My knees were shaking, but the old brass key stayed steady between my fingers. Arden appeared in the doorway without theatrical timing or raised voice. She merely looked from Mara to me. "Miss Cole," she said, "do you want company?" "Not protection, not intervention. Company." I swallowed. "Yes." Arden entered and stopped beside the nearest shelf, leaving me the center of the room. Mara laughed bitterly. "This is ridiculous." Arden's eyes cooled. "Then leaving should be easy." "Stay out of my relationship." Arden looked at me. "Is there a relationship I am required to stay out of?" My heart hammered. "No." "Then we are precise." Mara stared at me as if I had broken a contract. Perhaps, in her mind, I had. "You'll regret this when Shaw gets bored," she said. Arden's expression remained perfectly still. I felt the old instinct to apologize for causing conflict. Instead, I said, "Maybe, but the regret will be mine." Mara's mouth parted. It was the first time I had seen her without a prepared response. She left. The doors closed softly. My entire body began trembling. Arden did not touch me. "Would you like me closer?" she asked. I nodded. Arden sat beside me, leaving several inches between our shoulders. Somehow the space felt more intimate than an embrace. I pressed my hands together until my knuckles hurt. "I think I just ended 4 years in one sentence." "Several sentences," she corrected. I laughed wetly. "Thank you." "For counting." "For asking." Her gaze softened so slightly, I might have imagined it. "June, people who have been spoken over often mistake permission for kindness." She looked toward the rain. "You never required my permission. I merely remembered to leave the door unlocked." It was the first time she used my name, without a title. June. Quietly, like she was setting down something breakable. I turned toward her. We looked at each other too long. I noticed the tiny pale scar through her left eyebrow, and the way she pressed 2 fingers against her wrist when thinking. Arden noticed me noticing. Her hand dropped. "What?" "Nothing." That was clearly something. A strange smile pulled at me. "You dislike being observed." "I dislike inaccurate observation." "And accurate observation?" Her gray eyes held mine. "That depends entirely on who is looking." I smiled before remembering I was supposed to be devastated. Guilt followed immediately. Arden saw that too. You are allowed to experience more than one emotion in an evening.
Is that a Shaw Foundation policy?
No, our policies are much more restrictive. I laughed. A real one this time. Arden's mouth curved at one corner. The transformation was startling. She became younger, less carved from winter. Then the expression disappeared. There, she said. What? Nothing. I narrowed my eyes. That was clearly something. Her gaze warmed. Precisely, little locksmith. Little locksmith? I held up the brass key. I'm a book conservator. Tonight, you escaped one woman, unlocked an argument, and are considering a sealed archive. Arden leaned back. The title seems defensible. It sounds condescending.
Then I retract little.
That makes it worse. Her eyes actually brightened. I should not have noticed how beautiful she was when amused. I should not have noticed the clean scent of black tea and iris when she shifted closer. My heart had been broken hours earlier. Apparently, nobody had informed the rest of me. At 1 a.m, Arden stood.
Elise reserved a room at the estate house. You may stay or leave. A car can take you anywhere. I hesitated. Mara has the apartment key. Arden's jaw tightened, then relaxed.
Would you prefer somewhere she cannot enter? Yes. Then stay. She moved toward the door. Tomorrow, if you still wish, we open the archive. And if I don't? Arden looked back. Then the door remains closed. The answer settled something inside me. Tomorrow, I said. We open it. After Arden left, I walked once through the library. I touched no books. I only looked at shelves I had rebuilt while Mara presented progress meetings upstairs. For years, I had believed invisibility was the price of doing quiet work. Perhaps I had confused silence with absence. At the north corridor, I found a narrow oak door hidden behind an old tapestry. The brass key fit the lock perfectly. I did not turn it. Not yet. I rested my forehead against the wood and whispered, tomorrow. For once, the promise belonged only to me. I slept for 3 hours and woke believing the gala had been a fever dream. Then I found Mara's missed calls, 38 of them, and the brass key beside my tea. Reality returned without mercy. I switched my phone face down. The estate kitchen was quiet, pale morning light spreading over stone counters. Someone had left breakfast, but my stomach refused negotiation. I was staring at a piece of toast when Arden entered. My spine straightened automatically. She noticed. Of course she noticed. Please don't stand, she said. I'm only terrifying after 9. I checked the clock. It's 8:47. Then you have 13 safe minutes. Arden poured tea and sat across from me. Without the severe lines of public life around her, she looked almost approachable. Almost. Did you sleep? She asked. Badly. Good. I blinked. Good. You would concern me if you slept peacefully after detonating your life. My mouth twitched. Arden took a sip. The archive can wait. I closed my fingers around the key. No. June. If I wait, I'll answer Mara. Arden studied me. Then we work. I always go back, I admitted. Arden did not interrupt. Mara says one sensible thing, and I start rebuilding the entire argument around it. She never lies badly. She gives me 90% truth, then puts herself in the missing 10. Arden's fingers settled around her cup. That sounds exhausting. It makes me feel stupid. No. The word was immediate. It makes you practiced. I looked up. Arden's voice softened. There is a difference between failing to see a trap and being taught to call the trap home. The key lay between us. Arden touched one finger to its edge and slid it toward me. Then perhaps today should contain an uncomplicated decision. Opening a 30-year sealed archive is uncomplicated? Compared with love, extremely. I laughed into my tea. Her eyes rested on my face for 1 second too long. The air shifted. My fingers moved toward the key at the same moment hers withdrew. Our hands almost met. Almost. Arden became very still. I became intensely aware of my pulse. Then Elise burst through the door carrying 3 blank folders. Wonderful, Elise said, looking between us. Nobody is behaving strangely at all. Arden's stare could have frosted glass. Elise placed the folders on the table. Legal reviewed the restoration contracts. We have a problem. My stomach tightened. Mara? Mara, Elise confirmed. Her company registered digital ownership of every process report submitted during the project. I stared at her. Those are my techniques. I know. Arden's voice became dangerously quiet. Elise added, and yesterday, 3 hours before the gala, Mara applied for a major preservation grant using them. I could hear the refrigerator humming. Nothing else. She knew, I whispered. The speech wasn't a mistake. She planned it. Elise's expression gentled. Arden watched me, not the folders. We can challenge the filings, she said. The Foundation has records. We? Arden corrected herself instantly. You can. The Foundation can provide evidence if you request it. That small revision nearly undid me. She could have marched into battle and called it protection. Instead, she handed the decision back. I pressed my palms to the table. Show me everything. An hour later, I stood before the North Archive in work clothes, the brass key cold between my fingers. Arden waited behind me. Last opportunity to become sensible, she said. Do you often encourage employees to abandon assignments? You're not my employee. I glanced back. What am I? The question came out more personal than intended. Arden's eyes held mine. At present, the only conservator I trust with this door. Heat climbed my neck. I turned quickly and slid the key into the lock. The mechanism resisted, then yielded with a deep metallic click. The archive smelled of dust, old paste, and years held too tightly. I pushed the door open with both hands. Gray light fell through a narrow window onto rows of cabinets and blank storage boxes. Nothing glittered. No hidden treasure announced itself. I felt oddly relieved. Your board expected gold? I asked. My board expects anything that can be converted into a donor dinner. Arden stepped inside. My grandmother believed value and price were enemies. I think I would have liked her. Arden's expression changed. She would have liked you first. The first cabinet contained damaged ledgers, their spines warped by old humidity. I knelt instinctively. Arden crouched nearby. Don't touch, I warned. She froze. I wasn't. You were thinking about it. An outrageous accusation. Your hand moved 2 inches. Arden looked at her hand as if personally betrayed. I smiled despite myself. Humidity damage. Old but stable. I leaned closer. Someone packed these correctly before sealing the room. Arden's gaze moved over my face. You become different when you work. Different how? Less inclined to apologize for existing. The words hit a place I kept covered. I don't apologize that much. Arden raised one eyebrow. You apologized to a chair last night. I bumped into it. It is furniture. Expensive furniture. June? Fine. I looked back at the books. Maybe a little. Arden's voice softened. For what it is worth, I have never seen anyone handle damaged things with less fear. My throat tightened. Books don't ask you to pretend the damage isn't there. Silence followed. When I finally looked up, Arden was much closer than I expected. Her hand rested near mine on the wooden floor. 4 inches. Maybe 3. I noticed the fine veins at her wrist and the familiar 2-finger press she made there. You're doing it again, I whispered. Doing what? Pressing your wrist. Arden's fingers stopped. Occupational habit. What occupation causes that? Being responsible for people who enjoy making terrible decisions. So, the board. Mostly the board. I smiled. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. My breath caught. Somewhere behind us, an old pipe knocked loudly. We both moved apart too fast. I became intensely interested in the nearest storage box. We should inventory. Precisely. Arden's voice was lower than before. The box contained correspondence wrapped in neutral tissue, each bundle tied with faded cotton tape. No labels. My conservator brain lit up. These were arranged chronologically by paper composition. You can tell that by looking? Mostly. Little locksmith. I glared. Book doctor. Worse. Paper witch. I paused. Acceptable. Arden's mouth curved. For the next hour, betrayal became smaller than paper, thread, and the sound of her quiet laughter. Near the back wall, I found a closed volume with severe red rot along the spine. This was handled repeatedly before the room closed. Arden leaned in. How do you know? Wear pattern. Oils. The corners are smoother where someone held it. Can it be saved? I looked at her. Saved isn't usually the word I use. What word do you use? I considered. Stabilized, understood, given enough support to remain itself. Arden went very still. That sounds less like conservation and more like a philosophy. Maybe I've been practicing on the wrong things. Arden turned toward the narrow window. Rain traced pale lines down the glass. My mother spent years trying to save my father, she said unexpectedly. He resented her for every attempt. I said nothing. Arden continued. Afterward, she taught me that love without boundaries becomes a very elegant form of self-erasure. My chest tightened. And did you believe her? Intellectually. Her fingers pressed her wrist. Practice has been less impressive. I understood then that Arden's control was not coldness. It was architecture built around a collapse. I moved to the window and stopped beside her, not touching, just near. Mara didn't erase me all at once, I said. She asked for tiny things. Let me present. Let me answer. Let me sign this because the deadline is close. Every request sounded reasonable. Arden looked at our reflections in the glass. Most disappearances begin politely. You really do make everything sound terrifying. A useful skill in property negotiations. I laughed softly. Our shoulders nearly touched. Neither of us moved away. The archive no longer felt sealed. Neither did I. By noon, we had identified 12 volumes requiring immediate stabilization and 3 boxes of correspondence that could prove the library's original cataloging history. More importantly, Arden had asked me 37 questions and interrupted me exactly 0 times. I knew because I started counting after 10. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked. You listen. Arden frowned. That is generally how questions work. Not for everyone. Something sharpened in her gaze, aimed at someone who was not in the room. No, she said. Apparently not. Arden reached toward a damaged volume. Without thinking, I touched her wrist. Wait! 2 fingers against warm skin. That was all. Yet every nerve in my body seemed to gather beneath the contact. Arden stopped breathing. I realized what I had done and pulled back. Sorry. Her eyes lifted to mine. You were protecting the book. Still. June. Her voice turned quiet. Do not apologize for touching me unless you regret it. Heat rushed through me. I don't. Arden's gaze darkened. Then we have no problem. We absolutely had a problem. I spent the next 15 minutes pretending to examine cabinet hinges. Arden spent them pretending not to watch me. Neither performance was convincing. My relationship had ended less than a day earlier. I knew that. I also knew my attraction to Arden had not arrived after Mara's betrayal like some convenient replacement. It had been there in the ballroom, perhaps even before I understood it, in every foundation meeting where Arden asked me direct questions and Mara answered first. I had called the feeling intimidation because desire would have been inconvenient. Apparently, desire remained unconcerned. At 1, Arden disappeared. I assumed a meeting had claimed her. She returned 10 minutes later carrying 2 cups of tea. Orange peel, she said, handing me one. I stared. You did know. Know what? How I take it. Arden looked almost uncomfortable. You drank it during the West Gallery emergency. That was 8 months ago. I remember useful information. My tea is useful? Her eyes met mine. To me. The words hung there. Arden seemed to hear them after speaking. She looked away first. My hands warmed around the cup. We drank tea sitting on opposite edges of the work table. Silence settled easily. That surprised me most. Mara had hated silence unless she controlled it. She filled every pause with plans, observations, instructions. Arden let quiet exist. What happens now? I asked eventually. With the archive. With Mara. Arden set down her cup. You decide whether to pursue the filings. Legal can explain options. I will not tell you what to do. Even if you think I'm making a mistake. I may tell you that. Her mouth curved. Repeatedly, elegantly, but the mistake remains yours. I laughed. Repeatedly and elegantly sounds exhausting. You have not attended a Shaw board meeting. I've seen the minutes. Then you've seen fiction. I laughed harder, and Arden simply watched me. The smile faded from my mouth under the weight of her attention. What? I asked. She pressed 2 fingers to her wrist. Nothing. Clearly something. You laugh differently when nobody is waiting to correct you. My throat tightened. Arden's voice gentled. I apologize. That was intrusive. No. I looked down. It was accurate. Accurate observation, she murmured. Dangerous, apparently. When we finished, I held out the archive key. Arden opened her palm. I placed it there, and my fingers brushed hers. The contact was brief but undeniable. Arden's hand closed, not around mine, only the key. Keep it, she said. It's your estate. The archive is your project. I haven't agreed to a project. Then consider the key an aggressive recruitment strategy. I smiled. You said you wouldn't order me. I said I wouldn't decide for you. Her gaze lowered to my mouth. I remain extremely capable of asking. Ask then, I whispered. Arden became still. For one wild second, I wasn't sure which question I meant. Neither was she. Her eyes darkened before discipline returned. Will you lead the archive stabilization independently for 30 days? My pulse stumbled.
Independently? Your methods, your reports, your name.
I looked at the key. Fear and desire had become difficult to separate. What if I fail? Arden's answer came without hesitation. Then we document the failure accurately and learn something useful. Nobody had ever made failure sound survivable. Yes, I said. 30 days. Arden offered her hand. Welcome to the Shaw Archive Project, June Cole. I took it. Her grip was firm and warm. Professional. Entirely professional. The problem was that neither of us released quickly enough. Our eyes met. My thumb shifted against the side of her hand by accident. Arden inhaled. I felt it more than heard it. Then she stepped back.
Elise will prepare a contract.
Unlabeled? I asked. Unreadable, if legal has its way. I smiled. Arden looked at me like the expression had personal consequences. Tomorrow, she said. 9. After Arden left, I stayed in the archive until the light turned blue. 30 days. My own reports. My own name. The opportunity should have felt triumphant. Instead, terror crawled beneath my ribs. Mara had spent years standing between my work and the world. I resented her for it, but barriers worked both ways. Without her, there would be nobody to blame if people looked directly at me and found nothing remarkable. I closed my fingers around the key. One door, I whispered. It had become a habit already. One door, then another. The next morning, Elise met me with a contract and the expression of someone prepared to explain every sentence twice. Arden insisted on plain language, she said. Legal is grieving. I read slowly. Independent consultant. Full authorship credit. Ownership of original methods retained by me. Withdrawal without penalty. My eyes burned. Is this normal? Elise snorted. For Arden? Yes. For the industry, absolutely not. I looked toward the library doors. Why? Elise's humor faded. Because she knows exactly what it costs when powerful people confuse access to someone's work with ownership of them. What happened to her? I asked. Elise's eyebrows lifted. That is Arden's story. Shame warmed my face. Right, sorry. But, Elise added, I can tell you she notices certain patterns because she survived them. I traced the edge of the contract. She seems impossible to control. Now, Elise leaned closer. People see the finished architecture and forget buildings begin as exposed frames. I thought of Arden pressing 2 fingers to her wrist. Does she know you describe her with construction metaphors? I enjoy continued employment, so no. Arden entered as I signed. Her gaze moved to the page, then immediately to my face. Questions. 17. Elise answered them. Only 17? I expected better. I can invent 3. Please don't. Legal is fragile. I handed Elise the contract. Arden waited until she left. You are certain? You ask that a lot. People change their minds. Does that bother you? Her expression became unreadable. No, being denied the opportunity to change mine bothered me more. I understood there was a story beneath the words. I did not reach for it. We walked toward the archive together. 30 days, I said. 30. And you won't interfere with conservation decisions? Unless you attempt to repair parchment with household glue. I stopped. You think I would? Arden kept walking. I enjoy seeing you offended. It increases your volume. I hurried after her. You are impossible. Frequently documented. I caught up, shoulder nearly brushing hers. She glanced down at the narrow space between us. So did I. Neither moved closer. Neither moved away. The distance became its own conversation. That morning established our first ritual. I unlocked the archive at 9. Arden arrived at 9:10 with tea. At 12, she asked what I had found. At 12:15, I accused her of touching something. At 12:16, she denied it. At 12:17, I proved she was lying by identifying a shifted cotton tape. Arden stared at me. You are frightening. You own 17 buildings. 18. That makes my point. Her laugh startled both of us. It echoed against the cabinets, warm and rare. I wanted to hear it again. By the 4th day, Arden stopped asking how I took my tea. By the 5th, she adjusted the nearest lamp before I arrived, because she had noticed I leaned toward the light after 3 hours of close work. She never mentioned doing it. I noticed anyway. Care from Mara had always arrived with an invoice hidden inside. I brought you coffee, so attend this event. I handled the client, so let me present. Arden's gestures seemed almost secretive, as though kindness embarrassed her. That made them dangerous to me in an entirely different way. I taught Arden the difference between Japanese tissue weights because she refused to stop asking questions. This one disappears more easily, I explained. Why not always use it? Because invisible isn't always stronger. Her gaze met mine. Again with the philosophy. Again with the interrogation. I am funding you. You are funding the archive. A devastating distinction. I smiled. Arden watched the movement. What? Nothing. Accurate observation? Dangerous, apparently. We had repeated the joke enough that it belonged to us now. I tried not to treasure that. On day 6, Arden nearly lifted a brittle corner. I reached across and redirected her hand. Our fingers brushed. This time neither of us pretended not to notice. Arden's eyes rose slowly. Book doctor? She murmured. Menace. Paper witch. Acceptable? My hand was still near hers. She turned her palm slightly, enough that the side of her little finger rested against mine. Such a ridiculous amount of contact. Such a catastrophic effect. Then her phone rang. Arden withdrew and answered in her cold boardroom voice. I hated the phone instantly. I told myself attraction was a trauma response. Then I looked up trauma responses online and became annoyed when the internet refused to excuse the specific way my stomach tightened when Arden said my name. I was not ready for a relationship. I knew that. My trust had the structural integrity of wet paper. Yet wanting Arden and choosing Arden were not the same act. Maybe desire did not require immediate action. Maybe I could simply notice it. That possibility felt new. I had spent years treating every feeling as a problem Mara needed to approve. Arden returned 20 minutes later with her jaw set. Mara contacted the board. My hands stopped. About me? About the archive contract. She claims the Foundation induced you to break an exclusive employment agreement. I never signed one. We know. Then why do you look like that? Arden pressed her wrist. Because 3 board members believe avoiding controversy is more important than accuracy. Are they going to cancel the project? They may try. Fear rose fast. Arden saw it. June, listen carefully. Your work is not disappearing again because someone finds the truth inconvenient. Don't fight them because of me, I said. Arden's expression sharpened. That sentence contains an assumption. Which one? That I am acting from charity. She stepped closer to the table.
The Foundation requires competent conservation. You are competent. Mara misrepresented authorship. The board prefers comfort. I oppose them because they are wrong. Her voice lowered. My concern for you is separate. My heartbeat stumbled. There is concern. Arden went still. For once, I had surprised her. Considerable, she said at last. Inconveniently. The air between us became almost unbearable. I should have looked away. Instead, I said, Inconvenient for whom? Arden's gray eyes darkened. June. That's not an answer. It is a warning. You said accurate observation was acceptable. I said it depended on who was looking. I'm looking. Silence. Her fingers curled once against the table. She leaned forward a fraction. So did I. The closed book between us became the only barrier. Then Elise's voice came from the corridor. Arden, the board call is in 2 minutes. Arden shut her eyes briefly. I nearly laughed from frustration. Elise stopped in the doorway. Her eyes moved from Arden to me, then to the closed book positioned like a diplomatic border. Am I interrupting conservation? Yes, Arden said. No, I said simultaneously. Elise's mouth twitched. The board awaits. Arden collected herself with visible effort. At the door, she looked back. Do not move that volume alone. You think I'll damage it? No. Her gaze held mine. I think you will forget lunch again. Then she left. Elise stared after her. Considerable concern? She asked. I nearly dropped my brush. I have no idea what you're talking about, I said. Elise leaned against the table. Of course. Nothing is happening. Naturally. I ended a 4-year relationship 6 days ago. Elise's expression softened. That part matters. I finally looked at her. I like her. Saying it aloud made my chest ache. Elise nodded. No joke. Then, like her, you don't owe the feeling a schedule. I swallowed. What if I'm confusing safety with love? Maybe you are. She shrugged gently. That's why time exists. I stared at her. You are annoyingly sensible. Occupational hazard. Time. Mara had always treated time like an enemy. Decide now, answer now, sign now. Arden, for all her intensity, seemed willing to stand indefinitely beside a closed door. I looked at the tea she had left me and let myself feel the truth without solving it. I wanted her. I trusted her more each day. I was also hurt, frightened, and learning the shape of my own voice. None of those truths canceled the others. For the first time, uncertainty did not feel like failure. It felt like space. The following week, I moved part of the archive work into the main workshop. Arden followed me through the room while I explained humidity controls. You are hovering, I said. I am observing. Accurately? Dangerously. I looked at her over my shoulder. She almost smiled. Stand there. I pointed to a safe line beside the table. Arden obeyed. The sight of the feared Arden Shaw standing exactly where I told her to should not have thrilled me. You enjoy this, she said. Immensely. Cruel. Professionally necessary. Little locksmith. Paper witch, I corrected. I leaned across Arden to adjust a task lamp. The movement brought my face close to hers. Too close. I smelled black tea and iris. Arden looked up. Her eyes moved over my features with devastating slowness. My hand remained on the lamp. June, she said quietly. Yes? The light is adequate. Right. I did not move. Neither did she. Her gaze dropped to my lips. My pulse became painful. Tell me to step back, I whispered. Arden's jaw tightened. I am attempting to remember why I should.
The workshop door opened. Elise stopped. Again? I jumped backward so quickly I hit the lamp. Arden caught it before it fell. You have catastrophic timing, she told Elise. I schedule catastrophe professionally. Elise held up a phone. Mara has given an interview.
My embarrassment vanished. What did she say? Elise's expression turned careful. That you are emotionally unstable, that the Foundation exploited your breakup, and that your current work relies on proprietary techniques developed by her company. I went cold. Arden stood. The softness left her face. Send me the recording. Arden, I said. She looked at me. Ask. Do not respond yet, I said. Arden went completely still. Explain. She wants you angry. Mara knows your reputation. If you attack her publicly, she becomes the smaller business facing a wealthy heiress. Arden's eyes narrowed. She lied about you. I know. My voice shook, but I continued. And I want to answer her myself. The words terrified me. Arden studied my face. Then she nodded. What do you need? Not what will you do. What do you need? I breathed. Every original Foundation work log. Done. And time. Yours. I stared at the floor after she agreed. The adrenaline left me too quickly, and my knees felt unreliable. June? Arden's voice softened. Can I touch you? I nodded. Her hand settled on my shoulder. Nothing more. Warm, firm, grounding. I closed my eyes. Mara had touched me constantly in public, steering my elbow, adjusting my hair, arranging me like part of her presentation. Arden's single hand felt different because she had asked. You're shaking, she murmured. I'm furious. Good. I opened my eyes. You said that about sleep. I support useful reactions. You think anger is useful? I asked. When someone has trained you to swallow it? Extremely. Her thumb moved once against my shoulder, perhaps unconsciously. My breath caught. Arden noticed and immediately stilled. Too much? No. The answer came fast. Her gaze held mine. Accurate? She whispered. Dangerous. The corner of her mouth lifted. I wanted to kiss her so badly that the wanting frightened me. Instead, I covered her hand with mine for 1 second. Thank you. Arden looked at our hands. For what? Not making my anger about yours. Arden withdrew slowly. I have considerable practice, she said. With anger? With wanting to burn buildings for people who did not ask me to. I laughed. Please don't burn the archive. The insurance paperwork would be intolerable. Her humor returned, but I heard the truth beneath it. Arden's instincts were protective, almost brutally so, yet she held them on a short leash because she understood protection could become another cage. I wondered who had taught her that lesson. I wondered how much it had cost. I did not ask. Not yet. Elise and I spent the afternoon building a timeline, original photographs, supply orders, work logs, my graduate research, Mara's submitted reports. The theft became visible in columns, dates, and repeated phrases. At 4, I found a paragraph copied word for word from my thesis notes. My stomach turned. I wrote this in our apartment, I whispered. Elise stopped sorting. Do you want a break? I shook my head. No. Then I changed my mind. Actually, yes. The simple correction felt strangely important. Elise nodded. Tea? Tea? I was learning. Arden found me during the break. Elise said you discovered copied material. She reports everything. Only relevant catastrophes.
I stared into my tea. I keep remembering normal days. Grocery lists, laundry, Mara singing badly in the car. How can someone know you that intimately and still decide your work belongs to them? Arden leaned against the opposite table. Knowing a person is not the same as respecting their boundaries. Did you learn that from your father? The question escaped. I regretted it immediately. Arden's expression closed. Partly. I'm sorry. Don't be. Arden sat beside me. My father controlled my mother's foundation through access, she said. Passwords, lawyers, introductions. He never told her she couldn't work. He simply made every path require him. I looked at her. And you? I watched. Her voice thinned. Then I inherited enough power to understand how easily help becomes leverage. I wanted to reach for her. I didn't. Instead, I asked, "Would you like me closer?" Arden looked at me sharply. I recognized my own question in her face. After a moment, she nodded. I shifted until our shoulders touched. We sat shoulder to shoulder in the fading light. Arden's body was warm and perfectly still beside mine. She died when I was 26, she said. My mother. She had finally left him, but she spent her last years believing freedom had arrived too late. I swallowed. I'm sorry. So am I. Her shoulder pressed a fraction more firmly against mine. When I saw you at the gala, I recognized the look. What look? Someone trying to determine whether the room would permit her to know what she already knew. Tears burned my eyes. Arden whispered, I saw you, June. I turned toward her. Don't say things like that unless you mean them. Arden's gray eyes held mine. I do not say things I don't mean. That's an intimidating quality. I've been told. A tear slipped down my cheek. I laughed, embarrassed, and lifted my hand. Arden moved first, then stopped with her fingers near my face. May I? My heart broke open in an entirely new way. Yes. Her fingertips brushed the tear away. She did not cut my cheek. She did not linger beyond permission. Somehow the restraint felt more intimate than hunger. Her hand remained near my face. My eyes dropped to her mouth. Arden noticed. The air changed instantly. June, she whispered. I know. You are hurt. I know. And I am not neutral. My pulse thundered. I know that too. Her thumb hovered near my jaw without touching. Then, tell me what you want. I could have closed the distance. Every part of me wanted to. Instead, honesty arrived. I want to kiss you. Arden's breath caught. And I'm afraid I won't know whether it's mine yet. Her hand lowered. Then we wait. No disappointment crossed Arden's face. No persuasion. She simply nodded. Then we wait. My chest tightened. That easy? No. Her voice went dry. It is proving exceptionally difficult. A laugh burst out of me. Arden looked offended. Your suffering is funny. Apparently. Cruel woman. Paper witch. Acceptable. We stayed shoulder to shoulder until the workshop lights came on automatically. Wanting her became gentler after that. Not smaller. Never smaller. But safer, because desire no longer felt like a deadline. Arden had left another door unlocked and trusted me to choose whether to walk through. Our second ritual began that evening. At 6:30, Arden placed food beside my work area. She never announced it. I pretended not to notice that the meals changed according to what I actually finished. Soup after difficult days. Sandwiches when my hands were busy. Pasta when I had skipped lunch. On the fourth evening, I caught her setting down a bowl. You monitor my eating. Arden looked unrepentant.
I monitor endangered assets. I'm not Foundation property. Her face changed instantly. No, I was joking. I know. Her seriousness touched me. Thank you, I said. I split the pasta and pushed half toward Arden. Sit. Her eyebrow rose. Was that an order? An aggressive hospitality strategy. She stared at me for 2 seconds, then sat. Elise has corrupted you. You were already losing control of the situation. Deeply concerning. We ate from mismatched bowls between book presses. Arden checked her phone twice. On the third vibration, I reached over and turned it face down. She stared at my hand. I froze. Sorry. No. Her gaze warmed. Leave it. We finished dinner without another interruption. That dinner changed something. Not dramatically. Arden did not confess secret devotion. I did not leap across the table. We simply began making room. A second cup appeared beside her usual tea. She started bringing her laptop to the workshop at 6. I learned she hated pears, loved terrible detective novels, and could negotiate a property acquisition while eating crackers over a sink. She learned I hummed when nervous and always saved the crispiest piece of bread for last. Intimacy arrived through useless information. Perhaps that was why it felt so valuable. We worked in parallel silence. Sometimes an hour passed without speech. Then Arden would ask, "Why is that paper blue?" And I would answer for 10 minutes while she listened, as if the chemistry of rag fiber could alter international markets. One night, I stopped mid-explanation. "You're not actually interested in sizing agents." Arden looked up from her laptop. "I am interested in things that make you forget to be afraid of taking up time." My heart went painfully soft. That was almost romantic. How unfortunate. You should be embarrassed. I am devastated. I laughed until I had to put down my brush. Arden smiled fully. There it was again. The private version of her nobody at the gala would have recognized. "You should do that more," I said. Her smile faded. "What?" "Look happy." Arden glanced away. Dangerously intrusive observation. Accurate, though. Unfortunately. I wanted to ask when happiness had become something she wore in private. Instead, I said, "Your turn." "My turn for what?" "Tell me something useless." Arden considered with grave seriousness. "I can identify 37 bird calls." I stared. That is deeply unexpected. Precisely. The next evening, Arden tested me in the courtyard. Rain had softened to mist. A bird called from the ivy. "Blackbird," she said. "Show off." Another answered. "Wren." Invented. "You accuse me of bird fraud?" "Constantly." Arden looked scandalized. I grinned. The stones were slick, and my boot slipped. Her hand caught my elbow. I steadied. She released immediately. "All right?" "Yes." We kept walking. 3 steps later, I moved closer until our sleeves brushed. Arden said nothing. Neither did I. The contact repeated with every step. At the fountain, we stopped beneath an ivy-covered arch. "Why did your grandmother seal the archive?" I asked. Arden looked toward the dark windows. "The official answer is privacy." "And the unofficial?" "She was documenting Foundation acquisitions my grandfather wanted hidden." My pulse sharpened. "Hidden how?" "Questionable transfers. Artists and scholars pressured into selling collections." I thought of the correspondence boxes. "You think the archive contains proof?" "Possibly." "And the board doesn't know?" "Not yet." I looked at her. "You trusted me with that?" Arden's answer was immediate. "Yes." "Why?" I whispered. Arden's 2 fingers pressed her wrist. "Because you repaired thousands of objects without once treating damage as shameful."
That's not the same as trusting me with your family's history.
No. She held my gaze. It is the reason. My breath caught. Rain gathered at the edge of Arden's hair. Without thinking, I lifted my hand and tucked a damp strand behind her ear. The movement was gentle, almost ordinary. Arden froze. So did I. My fingertips rested near her temple. May I? I asked belatedly. Please, she whispered. I let my fingers trace one careful line near her ear. Arden closed her eyes for half a second. The powerful woman who could silence a boardroom leaned into my touch so slightly I might have missed it if I had not spent my life studying fractions. My chest ached. Arden. Her eyes opened. Yes? I wanted to say I was ready. I wanted to test the word against my heart. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. Mara's name appeared. The moment shattered. I dropped my hand. Arden stepped back, her face composed again. I declined the call. It rang again. Arden looked toward the fountain, giving me privacy without leaving. On the third call, a message appeared. Please, your mother called me. I frowned. My mother had adored Mara. She also believed conflict was a moral failure. I could already imagine the conversation. I need to deal with this, I said. Arden nodded. Do you want me here? The question steadied me. Nearby. How nearby? I looked at the bench 10 feet away. There. Arden walked to it and sat. Precisely nearby, she said. I called Mara. Finally, she said. Your mother is terrified. My grip tightened. Why did you call her? Because you're spiraling. I glanced at Arden. She remained on the bench, looking away. I'm working. For the woman trying to destroy me. No, for myself. Mara laughed softly. June, listen to how she has you talking. The old confusion rose. I nearly defended Arden. Instead, I asked, Did you copy my thesis notes? Silence. 1 second. 2. We shared a home, Mara said. There was my answer. We shared a home, I repeated, not a mind. Mara sighed. You're being dramatic. Did you use my methods in the grant application? Our methods? Mine. My voice no longer shook. Did you? June. Yes or no? Mara went quiet. I heard traffic through her phone. Finally, she said, You would never have submitted them yourself. The sentence cut deeper than denial, because part of it was true. Mara had not only stolen my work, she had built her excuse from the fear she helped create. Maybe not, I said, but you still had to ask. Mara started explaining. I ended the call. My hand shook afterward, but I did not call back. Arden rose from the bench and waited. Closer, I said. She approached. Closer, I repeated. Arden stopped directly in front of me. I could see rain caught in her lashes. I was afraid she was right, I whispered. About what? That I would never have submitted the work myself. Arden considered. Perhaps she was right. I flinched. Arden continued. That does not make theft an act of service. I laughed through sudden tears. You are brutally comforting. A specialty. I wiped my face. Arden's hands flexed at her sides. Would you like? She stopped. What? Nothing. Clearly something. Her mouth tightened. I was going to offer an embrace, which sounds absurdly formal now. A watery laugh escaped me. You can say hug. I dislike imprecise language. A hug is precise. Debatable. I looked at her. Yes. Arden's expression softened. Yes. What? You may hug me, terrifying heiress. Paper witch, she murmured, and opened her arms.
I stepped into them before courage could become analysis. Arden held me as though strength and gentleness were not opposites. One arm settled around my shoulders, the other at my waist. She did not squeeze until I leaned fully against her. Then her hold tightened. I breathed in black tea, Heiress, rain. My cheek rested near her collarbone. Her heart was beating faster than mine. That discovery did something reckless to me. "You're nervous," I whispered. "I am standing in the rain embracing a woman I have spent 10 days attempting not to kiss." My entire body went still. Arden sighed. That was insufficiently controlled. I pulled back enough to see her face. Arden did not release me, but her hands loosened, giving me room. 10 days? Longer, technically. My mouth opened. How much longer? This question seems designed to damage me. Accurate observation. Arden looked toward the sky as if patience might fall from it. The West Gallery pipe emergency. 8 months ago? You were arguing with a contractor about humidity. I stared. That attracted you? You threatened to lock him in a linen closet. He put a heater beside a medieval binding. I found your principles compelling. I laughed against her shoulder. Arden's hands remained steady at my waist and upper back. You had a crush on me because I threatened a contractor? Crush is a humiliating word. Infatuation? Worse. Considerable concern? Arden closed her eyes. Elise will be dismissed. You adore Elise. A temporary obstacle. I smiled so hard my cheeks hurt. Then the laughter faded, leaving us close. Very close. Arden's gaze lowered. June. I know. Do you? I thought about Mara's call, about fear, about choice. Not yet, I whispered, but closer. Arden nodded. Then closer is enough. Arden rested her forehead against mine. She did not kiss me. The restraint felt almost unbearable. I closed my eyes. Rain whispered against stone. Her breath warmed my lips, close enough that every inhale felt shared. Closer, she murmured. Enough? My hands rose and rested lightly at her sides. For tonight. Precisely. We stayed that way until the rain strengthened. Then Arden pulled back, looked at my soaked hair, and said, You are going to become ill. That is medically questionable. I own the building. My facts are final. Terrifying. Frequently documented. We changed into dry clothes and met in the kitchen at midnight. Arden made tea. I stole 2 pieces of toast from her plate. This is theft, she said. Shared household resources. You have known me 10 days. And already your legal arguments are improving. I smiled. Something had shifted after the courtyard. We were not lovers. We had not kissed. Yet honesty sat between us like a new piece of furniture. 8 months, I said. Arden groaned. We are not discussing this. You watched me threaten a contractor. Drink your tea, little locksmith. Paper witch, I corrected. You accepted little locksmith first. Under emotional distress. Legally binding. Your legal education remains weak. Arden raised her cup, hiding a smile. I leaned forward. Did you know Mara and I were together? Her smile vanished. Yes. Did that stop you? From acting? Entirely. From feeling. I attempted several aggressive scheduling strategies. You worked more? I acquired 2 buildings. I stared. Then laughter overtook me. Arden looked wounded. It was a difficult quarter. You bought property to avoid flirting with me. When stated that way, it sounds excessive. The laughter quieted. Our hands rested near the center of the table, not touching. Thank you, I said. Arden frowned. For the buildings? For not telling me. Understanding softened her face. You loved her. I thought I did. Do not rewrite your own history because she hurt you. The words stunned me. Arden continued. You loved her with the information you had. That feeling belonged to you. Mara's behavior does not get to steal it retroactively. Tears burned my eyes again. You are infuriatingly good at this. Considerable concern, she said softly. On day 11, Elise and I opened the first correspondence bundle after stabilization. Most letters concerned ordinary Foundation matters, but one pattern emerged. Collections transferred at unusually low valuations. Scholars removed from advisory roles months before sales. I felt cold. Arden was right, I said. Elise nodded grimly. Her grandfather built respectability with other people's losses. One envelope held no letter, only a thin sheet of handmade paper with pressure marks. Something was written on top of this, I whispered. Can you recover it? Maybe, without altering the original. My hands began to shake with purpose. Arden arrived within 10 minutes. I angled light across the paper, revealing faint impressions. We need imaging, I said. Non-contact. The university lab can help. Arden studied the marks. Names? Possibly dates and account references. Her jaw tightened. The board will want this contained. Will you contain it? Arden looked at me. I regretted the question until she answered. No. Even if it damages the Shaw name? A name that requires hidden harm to remain respectable deserves damage. My chest warmed. Good answer. Was I being tested? Aggressively. Cruel woman. Our hands rested near the sheet. Mara would publish this immediately, I said. For attention? For leverage. Arden glanced at me. And you? I considered. I'd verify first. Find the affected families if possible. Ask what they want disclosed. Arden's gaze became intensely still. What? Nothing. Clearly something. Her voice lowered. You have no idea how rare it is for someone to discover power and immediately ask who might be harmed by using it. I felt heat rise. I repair books. No. Arden's little finger brushed mine. You make room for damaged things to remain themselves. Neither of us moved our hands. Our little fingers rested together, barely touching. The intimacy of it felt absurd and enormous. Arden, I whispered. Yes? I'm getting closer. Her breath changed. I know. How? Accurate observation. I smiled. She did not. Her eyes were fixed on me with such restrained want that the room seemed to narrow. You could stop looking at me like that, I said. I could acquire another building. I laughed softly. Please don't distort the property market because of me. Then I am running out of strategies. I turned my hand palm up. Arden looked down. This is not a test, I said. I know. And I may change my mind. I know. You're very calm. I am experiencing several internal emergencies. My smile trembled. Arden placed her hand in mine, slowly, giving me time to close my fingers. I did. Her hand was warm, elegant, stronger than mine. We stood in a sealed archive, holding hands beside evidence of a century's worth of control. The irony was not lost on me. Closer, I whispered. Arden squeezed once. Precisely. We held hands for perhaps 30 seconds. It felt longer than entire months of my previous relationship. Arden did not stroke my skin or pull me nearer. She simply remained. I realized stability could be sensual. The thought nearly made me laugh. "What?" Arden asked. "Nothing. Clearly something. I was thinking you're very good at standing still." Her eyebrow lifted. "This is the quality attracting you?" "Among others." "List them." "Absolutely not." "Coward. Heiress. Paper witch." We smiled at each other, hands still joined. I had never felt less invisible. Arden's phone vibrated. We both looked at it with betrayal. "Answer," I said. "I could throw it through the window." "Historic glass. You make a compelling argument." She released my hand slowly. The absence felt immediate. Arden answered. I returned to the correspondence, but I heard enough to understand the problem. Board meeting, emergency motion, questions about my contract and the archive. When Arden ended the call, her face had become public again. "Tomorrow," she said. "They want you there." Fear ran through me. "Why?" "Mara has requested formal recognition as archive methodology owner." My first instinct was immediate. "I can't." Arden said nothing. That was worse. "There will be 12 people staring at me." 14? Not helpful. Accurate. I glared. Arden's expression softened. "You do not have to attend." "But Mara will speak for me again." "Yes." The single word settled between us. I closed my eyes. "I hate this." "I know. Tell me what to do." Arden went very still. "No." Anger flashed. "Why not?" "Because you are frightened, and I will not use fear to make your choice easier for me." I stared at her. "I am asking for help," I said. "Then I will help you identify options." "That's infuriating." "Frequently documented." I paced. "Option 1, I don't attend." "Correct." "Mara controls the narrative." "Likely." "Option 2, I attend and freeze." "Possible." "Option 3, I attend and speak." Arden waited. I looked at her. "You think I should choose 3. I think you want 3 and are afraid wanting it is insufficient." My pacing stopped. Arden's voice softened. "Courage is not certainty, June. Sometimes it is simply deciding fear does not receive a board vote." I looked at the key on the table. One door, then another. "Option 3, I said. Arden nodded. No triumphant smile. "No, I knew you could do it. Just acceptance." "What do you need?" "Practice. Elise can arrange." "With you?" Arden's composure cracked slightly. "Me? You frighten everyone." "A charming reason. If I can explain my methodology while you stare at me, 14 board members should be manageable." Her eyes narrowed. "You underestimate how I stare at you." My breath caught. "Then this will be excellent training." "Cruel woman," she murmured. That evening, Arden became the worst imaginary board member in human history. "Your evidence is anecdotal," she said from behind her desk. "No, it isn't. You lack executive experience. Conservation authorship does not require executive experience." "You were emotionally involved with Ms. Venn." My stomach tightened. Arden saw it. Again. "I was emotionally involved with Mara. And therefore," I breathed, "and therefore I had more reason to ignore the theft, not invent it." Arden leaned back. "Better. You are enjoying this. Immensely." "Monster." "Paper witch." We practiced for 2 hours. Every time I softened a statement, Arden stopped me. Again. Every time I said "I think" when evidence proved I knew, she raised one eyebrow. Again. By the end, I wanted to throw a cushion at her. "You are unbearable. And yet useful. Marginally." Arden stood and walked around the desk.
"One final question. Please let it be about Japanese tissue."
"Why should the board believe you?"
I opened my mouth, then stopped. Arden waited. Finally, I said, because the work remembers my hands even when people don't. Arden's face changed. The intimidating stillness dissolved into something almost painful. Say that tomorrow. Too dramatic? No. She stepped closer. Accurate. My pulse quickened. Dangerous. Extremely. We stood 1 arm's length apart. I could have reached her. I wanted to. Arden. Yes? What happens if I lose? You leave the room with your name still belonging to you. Her answer broke something open. Tears threatened. I laughed at myself. I cry constantly around you. I have that effect on boards, too. I smiled. Terrifying woman. Little locksmith. I touched her forearm. Deliberately. Arden looked down, then back at me. I am closer, I said. I am aware. Still willing to wait? Her laugh was quiet and humorless. Willing is inaccurate. Still choosing to wait? Yes. My fingers tightened slightly. Why? Arden's gaze softened. Because when you kiss me, June, I want the first thing you feel afterward to be your own choice. Not relief, not gratitude, not panic. My heart hurt. You make waiting difficult. Considerable concern has unfortunate side effects. I leaned my forehead briefly against her shoulder. Arden remained perfectly still until I whispered, You can touch me. Her hand settled at the small of my back. The contact sent warmth through my entire body, not possessive, not steering, simply there. I breathed. Arden's cheek rested lightly against my hair. We stood like that in her office while rain moved across the windows. Tomorrow, she murmured. Do not look at me when you speak. Why? Because I will make it too easy. I smiled against her shoulder. And after? Her hand warmed my back. After you may look wherever you choose. The boardroom was colder than I expected. 14 people sat around a table long enough to require its own weather system. Mara had not arrived yet. Arden stood near the far windows, speaking with counsel. She did not look at me. She had promised not to make it easy. My hands shook as I arranged blank folders. One board member asked whether I needed water. I almost apologized. Instead, I said, Yes, thank you. Tiny. Ridiculous. Important. I touched the brass key in my pocket and reminded myself that doors rarely opened because someone felt ready. Mara entered 5 minutes late. She saw me and paused. The surprise lasted only a second before her professional smile returned. June. Mara. She moved closer. Can we speak privately? My stomach twisted. No. Her eyes flicked toward Arden. You've changed. The old accusation hid inside the words. I almost defended myself. Then I realized there was nothing to defend. Yes, I said. Mara's smile faltered. Arden looked at me from across the room for the first time. Not encouragement. Recognition. I turned away before I could borrow strength that needed to be mine. Mara spoke first. She described our relationship as collaborative, our methods as jointly developed, my recent accusations as the product of emotional distress. Her language was smooth, reasonable. I recognized every technique because I had lived inside them. When she finished, the chair asked whether I wished to respond. My throat closed. 14 faces turned toward me. I wanted Arden. I did not look. I placed both hands on the table. The work remembers my hands, I said. My voice trembled. Fortunately, in this case, the records do too. I showed them dated photographs, tool orders, handwritten treatment maps, and my graduate research. I explained thread tension,
repair sequencing, and chemical choices. Halfway through, I forgot to be afraid. A board member interrupted with a technical question. I answered. Another challenged the timeline. I corrected him. Mara tried to speak over me. I wasn't finished, I said. The room went silent. So did Mara. My heart nearly escaped my chest, but I continued. Every sentence made the next one easier. I had spent years knowing my work. Speaking it was simply another kind of repair. When I finished, nobody spoke for several seconds. I finally looked at Arden. That was my mistake. Her expression held such fierce, quiet pride that tears immediately burned my eyes. I looked down before the board could see. Mara said, "June was always talented."
I never denied that. I lifted my head. You called me your assistant while accepting credit for my work. Public positioning is complicated. No. My voice steadied. You made me smaller because my silence was profitable.
Mara flinched. I felt no triumph, only clarity. The locked room inside me opened another inch. The board recessed for review. Before anyone left, Arden spoke. The archive project continues under Ms. Cole pending the authorship investigation. 3 members objected immediately. One mentioned reputation. Another mentioned donor confidence. Arden listened until they finished. You are describing discomfort, she said, not risk. A senior trustee frowned. Your personal involvement may be affecting judgment. The room changed. I went cold. Arden did not. Clarify personal involvement. The trustee glanced at me. My stomach dropped. Mara's expression sharpened with sudden understanding. The pressure had found a new door. Ms. Cole has been residing on estate property, the trustee said. You have attended her workshop daily. Perception matters. Arden's face became unreadable. Are you alleging procedural misconduct? I'm suggesting proximity creates questions. Mara leaned back, eyes moving between us. I felt exposed. Every quiet tea, every almost kiss, every touch suddenly seemed dragged beneath fluorescent light. Arden said, "Then ask a question supported by evidence." Nobody did. Still, I saw the danger. The board did not need truth. It needed ambiguity. Mara had survived on ambiguity for years. She knew exactly how to use it. During recess, Mara cornered me near the window. So that's what this is. What? Arden Shaw. She laughed quietly. God, June, you really don't see patterns. My chest tightened. Leave. She gave you a contract, a room, access, attention. You think that isn't leverage because she asks nicely first? I hated how precisely the words found my fear. You don't know her. Neither do you. Mara leaned closer. Powerful people always believe their desire is different from everyone else's control. I looked past her toward Arden. For the first time, doubt arrived, wearing Mara's voice and my own. Arden approached after Mara left. She stopped several feet away. What happened? Nothing. The lie sounded awful. Arden's eyes narrowed. June, please don't. She went still. All right. That easy acceptance made me irrationally angry. You don't want to know? You asked me not to. And you always do exactly the correct thing? Arden's expression changed. No. It must be nice to make restraint look effortless. It is not effortless. Her voice cooled. But I will not punish you for needing space. Shame and fear tangled. I need the meeting to continue. Precisely. We returned to the table with an ocean between us. The board postponed its final decision for 1 week and authorized an independent review. Procedurally, it was a victory. Emotionally, I felt sick. Arden did not approach me afterward. She spoke with counsel, then left the room. I told myself I wanted that. In the elevator, Mara's words repeated. Contract, room, access, attention. I knew manipulation often worked by making care conditional. Arden had never demanded anything, but fear was not a courtroom. It did not require evidence before issuing a sentence. Elise found me hiding in the library. You look terrible, she said. Thank you. Arden looks worse. I stared at the shelves. Mara said Arden's attention is leverage. Elise was silent. Say something. Do you want reassurance or my opinion? The question irritated me because it sounded like Arden. Opinion. Elise sat opposite. Arden has more power than you. Pretending otherwise would be stupid. That imbalance requires care. My stomach dropped. Elise continued. But power is not abuse by itself. The question is what someone does when you say no. I thought of every time Arden had stepped back. Mara says nice asking can still be control. I whispered. Correct. Elise did not soften it. So can gifts, contracts, protection, love. Anything can become leverage. I looked up, frustrated. That's not helpful. Because there is no magic category of person who cannot hurt you. Elise's voice gentled. You are looking for certainty before trust. It doesn't exist. My eyes burned. Then how do I know? You observe patterns. You set boundaries. You change your mind. You see what happens. I laughed bitterly. So I become a conservator of relationships? Honestly, your existing skill set is annoyingly relevant. I walked through the library alone. Observe patterns. Arden asked. Arden waited. Arden corrected herself. Arden gave me contracts that preserved my ownership. Arden also watched me with hunger, held me in the rain, and had enough influence to transform my career. Both truths existed. I hated complexity. Mara had often simplified the world for me. Her answer, her version, her plan. Perhaps certainty had been another cage. At the North Corridor, I touched the archive key in my pocket. A key did not force a door open. It only made opening possible. The hand still mattered. I went to Arden's office. She looked up, then carefully set down her pen. Do you want me nearby? She asked. The familiar words nearly broke me. I don't know. Then I can remain here. I entered but stayed near the door. Mara thinks you're using the project to get close to me. Arden's face went still. I see. Are you? The question hurt us both. I saw it. Arden did not defend herself immediately. I wanted you before the project, she said. But wanting access to you and using professional access are not the same thing. How do I know that? I asked. Arden's jaw tightened. You don't. The answer terrified me. She continued. You observe me. You challenge me. You leave if my behavior stops matching my words. That's Elise's answer. Elise is frequently sensible against my wishes. I almost smiled. Arden didn't. June, I cannot prove I will never hurt you. I can tell you what I intend, build structures that limit my power, and accept your decisions when they disadvantage me. Her eyes held mine. Anything more would be a promise designed to make you stop thinking. I crossed half the room. You could have said you would never hurt me. That would have been romantic. Very. And dishonest. Probably. I crossed another few feet. Arden remained seated. Are you angry? I asked. Yes. I stopped. At me? At Mara, at the board, at myself for wanting to make this easier and knowing I cannot. Her 2 fingers pressed her wrist. Not at you for asking. Relief hit so hard, my knees weakened. That matters. I know. I stepped closer until only the desk separated us. I'm sorry. For asking. No, for lying when I said nothing happened. Arden's expression softened. Thank you for correcting it. You're infuriating. Frequently documented. I looked at her hand on the desk. May I? Arden glanced down, then back up. Yes. I covered her hand with mine. Her fingers turned beneath mine and linked gently. The familiar warmth steadied me. Observe patterns, I whispered. Set boundaries. Change your mind, Arden added. See what happens. Her thumb moved once over my knuckle. What happens if I say I'm closer again? Arden's eyes darkened. I experience another internal emergency. I smiled. Good. Arden stood, still holding my hand. The desk no longer separated us. June. Yes? You are looking at me dangerously. Accurately. That is not how the joke works. I changed it. Cruel woman. I stepped closer. Arden's breathing changed. My free hand rested against her upper arm. I'm still afraid. I know. I still want you. Her eyes closed briefly. I know. You're very confident. No. She opened them. I am trying not to kiss you before you finish deciding whether you want me to. My heart hammered. That is increasingly inconvenient. I rose slightly onto my toes. Arden did not move. Our faces were inches apart. Suppose I said yes now, I whispered. I would ask yes to what? You are impossible. Precision protects us. My mouth was so close to hers, I felt the words against my skin. Yes to kissing me. Arden's fingers tightened around mine. And tomorrow? Fear flickered. I hesitated. Arden saw it. She stepped back 1 inch. The loss of warmth hurt. Closer, she said quietly, is enough. I nearly cried from frustration and gratitude in equal measure. I leaned into her instead. Arden's hand settled at my back after a pause. I hate how reasonable you are. This opinion is not widely shared. The board has poor judgment. Demonstrably. I laughed against her. Arden's chin brushed my hair. You can stay here as long as you need, she murmured. I stiffened slightly. She felt it and corrected herself. In this room, for this moment, not the estate, not the project, no hidden clause. I relaxed. You noticed. Accurately. Dangerous woman. Considerably concerned woman, she whispered. My heart answered before I did. The next morning, we returned to work. Nothing dramatic had been solved. That was becoming one of my favorite things about Arden. She did not demand emotional endings before breakfast. At 9:10, tea arrived. At 12, she asked about the evidence sheet. At 12:15, I accused her of moving cotton tape. She denied it. I proved her guilty. Ritual restored. Yet, beneath every ordinary exchange lived the memory of standing inches from her mouth. Stop smiling at that ledger, Arden said. It is becoming uncomfortable. Maybe I enjoy accounting history. Liar. You're doing the wrist thing, I said. Arden's hand dropped. I am not. You just did. Fabrication. Would you like photographic evidence? You have become intolerable. Good teacher. Arden's eyes warmed. I returned to the letters. What does it mean? I asked. The wrist thing. Silence. I looked up. Arden's expression had changed. My mother used to hold my wrist when my father shouted, she said. After she died, I suppose I kept the pressure. My heart softened. Thank you for telling me. Arden nodded. I did not reach for her. She noticed that too. A minute later, Arden extended her hand across the table, wrist turned upward. I stared. What? You looked like you wanted to. I didn't want to assume. Good. Her voice softened. I'm asking. I touched 2 fingers to her wrist, where she always pressed. Arden inhaled. Beneath my fingertips, her pulse raced. Internal emergency? I whispered. Several. I smiled. My fingers remained there. I did not recreate her mother's gesture. I simply listened to the pulse beneath her skin. Arden watched me with an openness so complete it frightened me more than desire.
You are terrifying to everyone else, I whispered. An exaggeration.
The West Wing manager called you ma'am 3 times in 1 sentence. Respectful. He was holding his breath. Arden's mouth curved. And what am I to you? The question entered quietly. I looked at my fingers over her pulse. Safe is too simple. Arden waited. Wanted is true, but incomplete. Her eyes darkened. I swallowed. You are someone I am choosing to know. Arden's pulse jumped beneath my hand. June. Accurate observation, I said softly. Dangerous. Extremely. Arden turned her hand and held mine. Then I am choosing the same. We stayed that way until Elise appeared at the door. This time she did not joke. Her face was pale. The interview went live. My stomach tightened. Mara again? Elise nodded. She released photographs of June leaving the estate residence and implied a relationship began before the archive contract. Arden's hand went cold around mine. Elise continued. 2 donors have suspended funding. The board has called an emergency vote for Monday. The quiet room suddenly felt surrounded. External pressure had found its breach. I pulled my hand away first. Arden's face shuddered. The movement hurt us both, but panic had already taken control. What photographs? Elise placed the phone face down. Courtyard, kitchen windows, nothing intimate. Then how? I stopped. Intimacy did not require kissing. A long lens could turn proximity into narrative. Arden's voice became ice. Who had access? Elise hesitated. A contracted gala photographer remained on estate grounds for archival documentation. I felt sick. Mara had known exactly where to look. Arden said, Terminate the contract. Wait, I said. She stopped instantly. June? Don't do anything yet. Arden's jaw tightened. Someone photographed you without consent. I know. And sold the images. I know. June. Arden, please. She fell silent. I breathed. If you start firing people and threatening contracts before we understand the chain, Mara gets exactly what she wants. Powerful heiress protects lover from scrutiny. The word lover burned through me even in crisis. Arden's expression barely shifted. What do you propose? I looked at Elise. Find out who requested the photographs. Quietly. Elise nodded. Arden stared at me. You should not have to become strategic about your own humiliation. But I am, I said. That is reality. Arden's eyes flashed. Reality can be challenged. Not always by you. The words came sharper than intended. Arden went still.
I know.
Shame hit immediately, but anger remained.
Do you? Because every time something happens, I can feel you planning 5 ways to destroy it. I plan options. You plan wars. And you plan how to survive without inconveniencing anyone. Silence cracked between us. Arden regretted the sentence instantly. So did I. That was unfair, she said. It was accurate, I whispered.
Which is worse? I moved to the window. I don't want to become a battlefield between you and Mara. Arden's voice came quietly. Neither do I. Then stop acting like every threat requires force. And you stop acting like enduring harm is evidence of moral superiority. I turned. I don't think that. You apologized to furniture. That joke is getting old. It stopped being a joke when you asked me not to protect you because strangers might misunderstand. Anger flared. Protection without my choice is possession with better branding. Arden recoiled as though I had struck her. The room went silent. I wanted the words back immediately. Not because they were entirely wrong, but because I had used Arden's deepest fear as a weapon. Her face became perfectly calm. Public Arden. Understood, she said. My anger vanished. Arden? Elise will coordinate the investigation according to your instructions. I didn't mean. You were clear. She moved toward the door. I stepped after her. Please don't leave like this. Arden stopped, but did not turn. I am angry, June, and I do not trust myself to speak precisely. Her hand pressed her wrist. So I am choosing distance. Then she left. The door stayed open behind her. That made it worse. Arden did not slam doors. She did not punish. She simply used the boundary I claimed to value. I sat at the work table and cried from frustration. I had been right to demand choice. I had been wrong to compare her care to possession. Both truths existed, and I was tired of truth arriving in pairs. At 9:10 the next morning, no tea appeared. Of course it didn't. Arden had chosen distance. I hated how quickly I missed a ritual I had never asked her to create. I worked alone. At 12, nobody asked what I had found. At 6:30, no food arrived. I became furious with Arden for respecting exactly what I had demanded, which was an impressive new level of emotional hypocrisy. I nearly went to her office 3 times. Each time, I stopped. Apology mattered, but I wanted to understand what I was apologizing for. Not discomfort. Not conflict. I had spent years apologizing whenever another person felt bad. This needed to be different. So I stayed with the feeling until the shape of my mistake became clear. Elise found me aggressively organizing brushes. You two fought. How can you tell? Arden corrected a board member's grammar today. I winced. Bad? He left early. Elise watched me. Do you want my opinion? No. Good. You weaponized her mother's history. I stared. You said you weren't giving an opinion. I lied. Anger rose, then collapsed. I know. Elise softened. You were scared. That's not an excuse. No, but understanding is not excusing. I sat down. I don't know how to disagree without expecting someone to win. Learn. That's your advice? I asked. Learn? Elise shrugged. You repair bindings. You know tension can hold structure together when distributed properly. I stared at her. Everyone around me has started using conservation metaphors. You made us this way. I rubbed my face. I was right about needing choice. Yes. Arden was right that I confuse endurance with goodness. Also, yes. I hate this. Welcome to adult intimacy. I looked at her. We haven't even kissed. Elise blinked. Seriously? Elise. Sorry. Arden's self-control is apparently a renewable energy source. I laughed despite myself. That evening, I wrote Arden a note, hated it, tore it up, and remembered readable notes were dangerous to visual continuity in ways my life did not understand. So I abandoned paper and practiced aloud.
I am sorry I compared your protection to possession. Too formal. I used your fear against you. Accurate. Painful. I stood in the empty workshop and said it again. I used your fear against you because I was afraid. My voice shook. You did not deserve that. There. No explanation designed to erase responsibility. No demand for immediate forgiveness. One clean repair. Arden was standing by her window when I entered. Elise said you wished to speak. Her voice was polite. I hated polite. I used your fear against you because I was afraid, I said, before courage escaped. Arden turned. I continued. I was right to ask for choice. I was wrong to compare your care to possession after you have spent weeks proving you understand the difference. You did not deserve that. Silence. I forced myself not to fill it. Arden looked at me for a long time. Thank you, she said. My chest tightened. That's all? No, Arden said. But it is where I begin. I nodded, trying not to cry. I am also sorry, she continued. I treated restraint as the only ethical form of care and became resentful when you did not understand the effort. I blinked. You were resentful? Deeply. You looked like a statue. I contain multitudes. A laugh escaped me. Arden's mouth softened. June, you were right about one thing. I plan wars. Sometimes I need to be asked whether anyone wants an army. And sometimes I need to stop volunteering to be collateral. Precisely. We sat on the office sofa. Terms, Arden said. For what? For considerable concern. I smiled weakly. That sounds romantic. Do not spread rumors. She became serious. When something affects you directly, I ask before acting unless immediate safety is involved. Agreed. When I ask whether you want help, you answer honestly instead of protecting me from inconvenience. I winced. Agreed. When either of us is angry, no weaponizing disclosed wounds. Shame flickered. Agreed. I looked at her. My term. You stop pretending wanting me is a procedural inconvenience. Arden stared. Cruel. Agreed? I asked. Arden pressed 2 fingers to her wrist. I noticed. She noticed me noticing. Slowly, deliberately, she lowered her hand. Agreed. My heartbeat quickened. Say it then. June. Precision protects us. Arden looked almost offended by her own words being used against her. I want you, she said. Direct. Unadorned. The room tilted. I wanted you before the archive, before the gala, before you knew enough about me to make that wise. I want you now with considerably more difficulty. My knees touched hers. Good, I whispered. Because I'm tired of being the only one terrified. I took Arden's hand. I'm not ready for easy, I said. I distrust easy. I'm still learning what I want. Then learn. I might change my mind. Then change it! Tears burned my eyes. You make everything sound possible. Arden's expression softened. No, I make room. You keep mistaking the two. I laughed shakily. Being seen is exhausting. Accurate observation. Dangerous. Extremely. I leaned closer, but stopped. Not yet. Arden understood. She lifted our joined hands and pressed her forehead briefly against my knuckles. Tenderness nearly destroyed me where hunger had failed. The emergency board vote was moved to the Foundation's annual public forum because Mara's interview had made private handling impossible. 200 people returned to the same gala hall where I had disappeared 3 weeks earlier. This time, I entered through the main doors under my own name. Elise walked beside me. Arden waited across the room. We had agreed not to arrive together. Optics mattered, even when I resented them.
Arden saw me and went very still. Her gaze traveled over me once, then returned to my eyes. Considerable concern, publicly contained. You look... Arden stopped. Be precise, I teased. Dangerous. My face warmed. That's our word for accurate observation. I changed it. I smiled. Cruel woman. Paper witch. We stood carefully apart. Nervous? She asked. Yes. Do you want me nearby? I glanced toward the platform. Front row. Arden nodded. Precisely nearby. My chest warmed at the old joke. I wanted to touch her. Instead, I said, After this, I need to tell you something. Arden's gray eyes sharpened. Good or catastrophic? Possibly both. I look forward to suffering. The independent review findings were presented first. Every major methodology document originated in my files. Mara's company had altered authorship metadata after submission. The grant application used my unpublished research. Facts entered the room without needing my fear. Mara requested a response. She spoke about shared domestic space, collaborative conversation, implied consent. Then she turned toward me. June knows I believed in her when she did not believe in herself. The sentence hurt because it was partly true. I stepped to the microphone. Believing in someone does not transfer ownership of them. You did encourage me, I continued. You also learned exactly where I doubted myself and built a business model around standing in those spaces for me. Mara's face tightened. That's unfair. Maybe. My voice remained steady. But my work was mine before I was brave enough to present it. My research was mine before I believed it deserved funding. My silence did not make my consent automatic. The hall was quiet. I looked at Mara and felt grief, not hatred. I loved you. That was real. What you did was also real. I won't erase either truth. Mara looked at me for a long moment. Her confidence finally cracked. I thought I was helping you, she said. Perhaps she even believed it. Sometimes you were, I answered. Then you stopped asking whether I still wanted help. Tears brightened her eyes. Mine answered. This was not the satisfying destruction people imagined when they talked about betrayal. It was sadder. Two people could share groceries and jokes and years, then discover love had become shaped around one person's fear. Goodbye, Mara, I said. She nodded once. For the first time, she let me have the last word. I stepped down from the platform. Arden sat in the front row exactly where I had asked. She did not stand. She did not cross the room and wrap me in her arms. She waited. Even now. Especially now. I stopped before her. Closer, I whispered. Arden rose. The movement drew attention from half the hall. How close? She asked softly. My heart hammered. Beside me. Arden stepped to my side. Not in front. Not between me and the room. Beside me. The symmetry of it almost made me laugh. The board chair announced the findings. Mara's methodology claim was denied. The foundation formally recognized me as lead conservator on the library restoration and archive project. Applause began. That same terrible sound. My body remembered disappearing beneath it. My breath shortened. Arden noticed. June? Stay. One word. Her shoulder touched mine. I focused on the pressure. Applause became noise instead of judgment. I looked around the room. People were seeing me. Some would misunderstand. Some would reduce me. Some would leave. Arden leaned slightly closer. Still here? Yes, I whispered. This time, yes. The senior trustee who had questioned Arden's involvement approached before the applause ended. This does not resolve the perception problem, he said. Arden's body changed beside me, cold control returning. Clarify. He glanced at our shoulders. Your relationship with Ms. Cole. My pulse jumped. Arden's jaw tightened. I knew she could destroy him with 3 sentences. I also knew our terms. She looked at me first. Do you want me to answer? The trustee blinked, confused. I almost smiled. Yes, I said. Answer for yourself. I'll answer for me. Arden's eyes warmed. Precisely. Arden turned toward him. My professional judgment regarding June Cole is supported by the independent review you approved. Her voice carried through the quiet hall. My personal feelings are substantial, private unless she chooses otherwise, and irrelevant to the authorship evidence. A murmur moved through the room. Arden continued, I will not deny caring for someone to make people more comfortable with recognizing her competence, nor will I use that care to speak for her. Then she stepped half a pace back. Every eye shifted to me. Arden had publicly chosen me by leaving my voice mine. I looked at the trustee. Ms. Shaw did not give me my methods. She did not write my research. She did not make me competent. My voice strengthened. She did something much less dramatic. She asked questions and listened to the answers. I glanced at Arden. Her eyes shone. I am responsible for my contract, my work, and my personal choices. If the board wants safeguards, build transparent safeguards. Do not turn my agency into another thing you debate without me. The trustee flushed. Elise, somewhere behind him, looked dangerously delighted. I finished. Was that precise enough? Elise made a choking sound that was definitely laughter. Arden's mouth twitched. The trustee muttered something about governance and retreated. The hall slowly resumed breathing. Donors approached. Scholars asked about the archive. For the first time, people addressed questions directly to me. I answered until my throat hurt. Arden remained nearby but never inserted herself. Once, someone attempted to redirect a technical question to her. Arden simply said, June is the conservator. 4 words. No speech, no rescue. Just the truth, repeated publicly until the room learned where to look. An hour later, I found Arden by the window. You disappeared, I said. You were being celebrated. I noticed. You looked trapped. Accurate. She smiled. Dangerous? Extremely. I stepped closer. I told you I needed to say something after. Arden's composure visibly struggled. Yes. I know what I want tomorrow. Her breath stopped. June. And the day after may change. Years from now may change. I can't promise certainty. I would distrust it if you did. I smiled. Good, because today, now, with all the information I have, I choose you. Arden closed her eyes. For one terrifying second, she looked less like a powerful heiress than someone receiving news she had not allowed herself to hope for. Say something, I whispered. I am experiencing several internal emergencies. I laughed softly. Terrifying. Frequently documented. My hand rose to her face. I tucked a strand of black hair behind her ear, repeating the courtyard gesture. This time, my palm settled against her cheek. Arden leaned into it. May I kiss you? I asked. Her eyes opened. June, I have been waiting 8 months and 3 acquired buildings for you to ask. I kissed her. Gently, because hunger had waited long enough to learn patience. Arden's lips were warm and still for half a heartbeat, as if she needed proof the moment was real. Then her hand settled at my waist, and she kissed me back. No explosion, no possession. A slow, careful answer. My fingers slid into her hair. Arden made a quiet sound that nearly destroyed my remaining composure. She held my face with one hand, thumb resting near my cheek. When we separated, our foreheads touched. "Closer," she whispered. "Enough?" I smiled. "Not remotely." The second kiss was deeper, but still ours to stop. Arden's hand moved from my waist to the small of my back. I held her face, fascinated by the softness she allowed only when nobody demanded it. Somewhere behind us, a glass clinked. We ignored it. When I finally pulled back, Arden looked dazed. "You bought 2 buildings because of this?" I asked. 3, if we count the warehouse. I laughed against her mouth. "You need healthier coping mechanisms." "I recently acquired one." "Careful. Too possessive?" "No." I kissed her once. Just catastrophically romantic. The morning after our first kiss, I woke alone and panicked for exactly 4 seconds. Then, I smelled tea. Arden was in the kitchen, staring at a toaster as if negotiating hostile territory. "It burned me," she said when I entered. "The toaster?" "Deliberately." I laughed and sat. She placed tea before me. Black, strong orange peel. The same care gesture as the first night. Only now, when Arden passed my chair, I caught her hand. "Closer," I said. She bent and kissed my forehead. Precisely nearby. My chest felt painfully full. We discussed practical matters over burnt toast. I would move out of the estate guest room by the end of the month. Arden looked carefully neutral. "You want to leave?" "I want my own address before deciding how often I sleep at yours." Her eyes warmed. "An excellent distinction. And the archive contract gets an additional independent supervisor." "Already arranged." "You arranged it before I asked." Arden froze. "Elise suggested?" I laughed. "I'm teasing." She glared. Cruel woman. "Terrifying heiress." Beneath the table, her knee touched mine. This time, neither of us treated contact like an emergency. The archive changed slowly. So did we. Arden still arrived at 9:10 with tea, though sometimes I brought hers first. At 12, she asked what I had found. At 12:15, I accused her of touching something. She denied it with decreasing credibility. Beneath the table, our shoes sometimes touched. The first time, we both froze. By the 10th, neither looked up. Love did not arrive as rescue. It appeared in repeated permissions, adjusted lamps, difficult apologies, and the quiet certainty that either of us could leave the room without destroying what we had built. The university recovered enough impressions from the archive sheet to identify 6 collections acquired under coercive circumstances. Arden created a restitution panel that included affected families and independent historians. She refused to chair it. "Conflict of interest," she said. I smiled. "Look at you, building safeguards. I am growing. Terrifying. Frequently documented." We stood shoulder to shoulder over the evidence. "Your grandmother would be proud," I said. Arden looked down. "I hope so." I touched 2 fingers to her wrist. She turned her hand and held mine. "She would have liked you," Arden whispered. First. 6 months later, Elise unlocked a room on the estate's east side and told me not to cry. I cried immediately. The old map room had become an independent conservation studio leased to me through a public foundation program. External auditors had designed the agreement. My name appeared only in documents I had read and signed myself. "Arden wanted to show you," Elise said. "Why didn't she?" "She was afraid you'd think the room was a romantic gift." I laughed through tears. "It is professionally transparent and emotionally obvious." Elise nodded. "That is basically Arden's love language." Arden appeared in the doorway 5 minutes later. Elise talks too much. Frequently documented. Her eyes moved over my face. Do you hate it? I looked around the studio. Warm tables, northern light, a window seat, enough room for apprentices one day. No. Arden exhaled. I walked toward her. But I need to ask something. Anything. Did you choose the tea shelf? Arden looked offended. I made one suggestion. Control issues? Architectural efficiency. I kissed her before the argument could develop. 6 months together had taught me some strategies were worth keeping. Arden smiled into my mouth. She smiled more now, not constantly. Public Arden remained capable of terrifying contractors, trustees, and one memorable florist who delivered lilies after Elise explicitly requested no lilies. But with me, warmth arrived more easily. I held her face. You look happy. Dangerously intrusive. Accurate. She kissed my palm. Yes. One simple word. My chest tightened. I thought of the woman beneath chandeliers who had looked down at her hands and wondered when she agreed to become small. I wished I could reach backward through time and tell her a room was waiting. My studio developed rituals. Arden still adjusted lamps when she thought I wasn't looking. I still pretended not to notice until one afternoon when I caught her. You know I can move the lamp myself. I am aware. Then why? Arden placed tea beside my hand. Black, strong, orange peel. Because care is not proof you are incapable. I looked at her. 6 months earlier, that distinction might have frightened me. Now, I simply held out my hand. Arden took it. Stay for dinner? I asked. Is that an order? An aggressive hospitality strategy. Then yes. At sunset, we sat in the window seat overlooking the courtyard. My head rested against Arden's shoulder, her fingers linked with mine. Do you ever think about the gala? She asked. The first one? Yes. I considered. Sometimes. Do you wish I had intervened earlier? Once I would have said yes. I would have imagined a powerful woman arriving before pain and preventing it. But I understood love differently now. No, I said. I wish Mara hadn't hurt me. That's different. Arden kissed my hair. Accurate observation. Dangerous? Always little locksmith. Paper witch? Mine? She asked softly. I smiled. Chosen. People still told the story as if Arden Shaw had saved me. The cold heiress saw a humiliated conservator, exposed a thief, and changed her life. It sounded beautiful and was almost entirely wrong. Arden had not rescued me. She had noticed me. She had opened doors, then stepped aside. I had walked through them trembling, angry, uncertain, and free. That evening, I locked the studio and placed the brass key in my pocket. Arden waited beside me. Home? She asked. I took her hand. Yes. And this time, home was not where I disappeared. It was where I remained visible and was chosen anyway.